This is CJ immediately after the game. Quick little clip.
After big plays, we kind of just hung our head and I feel like we felt sorry for ourselves.
That was him after the Titans victory, talking about previously what he had seen on television, and we'll play all of that so to add a little bit more to it. But I want to talk first about leadership and culture, which is tricky sometimes because I've been in the NFL or around the NFL for 26 years now. And you hear so many speeches about leadership and so many speeches about culture. In the vast majority of the time, it's all for naught and it means nothing. So you get kind of cynical about it, especially because I mean, there's times where people are 100% fraudulent in talking about leadership and culture. Sometimes it takes a couple years to roll them out of an organization and hire somebody else. But um, sometimes it's also somebody who's totally genuine and has leadership ability and has high character, and they still can't install a great culture. And that's the really puzzling thing. And just what I've seen over time is that it's ultimately always about multiple people. It's about the blend of the GM and the head coach together. It's the key veterans who provide leadership. It's the kinds of guys you bring in. And like this is the first time in a long time that I'm buying in hook, line, and sinker into a lot of the leadership and culture stuff because it's just different. And it all starts with DeMeco. Like it's rare that there's an NFL coach who goes to a team specifically because he wants to go to that team. He told Nick Cassero he wanted to go there. Coaches are mercenaries. There's 32 jobs, as David Culley said. He took that Texans job because it was one of 32 jobs. DeMeco Ryans told Nick Caserio and Cal McNair that he wanted specifically to come to the Texans. He didn't want to go anywhere else. That's rare. That's the exception, not the rule, because most guys are just they need that job. They need that opportunity. So that part of it is already a little bit different. And then Will Anderson and CJ Stroud are just a little bit different. But DeMeco, right from the very beginning this season, took a pretty aggressive approach in terms of entrusting your rookies.
A lot of young guys who stepped up and they provided energy to our team. And that's what I told our young guys. I met with them in the offseason. I want you guys to be the driving force, right? You guys bring the energy to our team, and they set the tone, right? And that's what I asked them to do, and they've been doing it all year with this team.
The key with that, too, is when you want young guys to bring energy, you 100% have to be sure they're the right guys, and you added Tank into that. I should just talk about Tank in the present sense instead of talking about him like he died or something. He was out there, leading the team onto the field last week, he was walking. That was cool. I didn't expect him to walk. I thought he was going to be like in a little scamp or something like that. So the tricky thing about asking your rookies to provide the energy for the team is that a lot of rookies provide just they'll provide energy, but they're also jackasses, and they'll leave 25% of their energy in the club, and then they'll spend 25% of their energy worrying about the wrong stuff. The Will and CJ and Tank are just the absolute right kind of energy, and it's rare to see rookies entrusted by their head coach to bring that energy in. If you want to talk about energy, watch Will Anderson here.
People always talk about this rookie block. You're going to get this rookie block. And it's how can you get a rookie block when you're so intrigued on learning and you're so intrigued on, almost reaching your goal? And I think that's what it is. All the rooks here, I don't feel like none of us reached a rookie block because we're so eager to learn. We see success and we just want to keep going and going to get it.
I can't tell you, how many rookies I've known that are so much about all the non-football stuff, who are thinking about their production company and they got to be sure they take care of this guy. And it can be really, really bad, and it can snowball in the way that it affects other players on your team and everything. The biggest thing about Will and CJ in terms of how they can be an influence on other guys is that they just have so much energy and they're 100% committed to it. They're football geeks. And you a lot of times you get guys in the NFL, whether they're rookies or veterans, who kind of take on a too cool for school attitude. And that's a bad place to be, because then that infects everybody else. Because then all of a sudden, looks like all the cool kids are sitting in the back of the room. I guess that's where I don't want to be a dork and sit down in the front of the room. Foreshadowing. We talk about this in a little bit. This was so the part that I played at the beginning, for those of you who didn't see it, was CJ talking about how he had seen people look like we were down on ourselves and hanging our heads. When he came out of the concussion protocol last week, he said something kind of mysterious, and we were all kind of wondering exactly what he meant. So this was from a week ago.
I actually got to like see some things that we can work
So he's talking about watching the game on TV.
on, like from a visual standpoint on like a TV level. Not like trying to look cool or nothing, but just trying to like control our emotions better, things like that. And I feel like just that perspective of the game definitely helped. And
He said I think when he's talking about the perspective, I think just looking at it from the third person instead of being out on the field. And I don't think he's ever watched a team of his where he was missing games where he had to watch on television, because that comes into play here. I think Kim Davis asked him about this after the game, so he further explained exactly what he was talking about and what he saw when he was watching on television in the Browns game.
after big plays, we kind of just hung our head and like I feel like we felt sorry for ourselves, you know. Even like especially offensively, like we had a couple positive plays, a couple explosives, and we got a flag and we came back and guys acting like we can't overcome it because you just see everybody's head down. So I said something about it, but I more so showed it with my actions during practice. That was kind of like the main nugget I took from watching the game on TV. So I just try to imply that.
I'm not disagreeing with CJ. I am a little bit curious about just what it was like for him watching on television, because I went back, I wasted a lot of time this afternoon. I went back to the Cleveland game and I found the two offensive plays that he would have been talking about. There were only two that really applied when there was a good play followed by a penalty. One was the Devin Singletary screen that was called back by a Juice Scruggs hold. And then the other one was the Dameon Pierce run around to the right that was called back by penalty too. And they only showed like little brief snippets of the offensive lineman being upset about being called for a penalty. And I don't know if like I don't know what other I don't know what other response they would have given other than like, you know, offensive linemen look agitated there. And I got to think in those specific plays, at least, I think CJ was sitting at home and just felt like helpless, like he wanted to talk to those. He wanted to be able to look those guys in the eye and say like, "Hey, all right, no big deal. We got this," right? And then after the Singletary play, that was also when they brought Davis Mills in. So I think when they showed the offensive lineman in the huddle, I don't know if it was a look of like, what the hell are we doing? Or like just kind of readjusting or whatever. I didn't necessarily see them being as down on themselves as CJ thought. And I went back and I watched a couple of big plays that the defense let up. And, you know, defensive backs defensive backs tend to look kind of stoic after there's a big play. You know, they don't want to be too affected by it. So I think that was really honestly more about CJ just wanting to reach into the television screen and actually be an influence out there. But I love that that's his instinct. And there might be other examples too. We all speculated on what it might have been, whether it was like the unsportsmanlike calls or what have you. I think it was him just hating that he had to be there watching this on television. Will talked about how hard it was to watch on television too. This is Will and CJ both talking about the speeches that veterans gave the night before the game. This is really cool because this speaks to good leaders also being good followers, and also just that need to have guys at multiple levels of the team, age-wise, in position groups and everything, to be leaders. But this was really good to hear.
Yeah, it means everything, man. We have some really great vets, man. I mean, it's special. Like, I sit in the front row, and we got both our leaders, Robert Woods and Rank, come up here and talk to us, and Rank hit on, we got 8 quarters left to play ball, man. We're not guaranteed anything, and we finished 4 quarters today, and we got 4 more next week. And when he broke it down in that perspective, I think everybody seen like a different perspective, a different view.
We had Robert Woods and Sheldon Rankins come up to us and talk to us last night about just the opportunity that we have, and I think everybody took that really serious.
Robert Woods asked us, like, how bad do you really want it? Like, does it mean enough to you to sacrifice whatever you have to sacrifice for us to make this playoff run?
The classic speech that a lot of veterans give to rookies, I think probably seeped its way in there too, which is simply like, you have no idea how fast this is going to go by. And it's like, God, I get like teary-eyed just even kind of thinking about this, because it's true, man. Like, I was a classic cautionary tale that you tell young guys, where I came into the league and I was like, oh, cool. Just in the playoffs every year and go to AFC championship games, right? That's fun. And then like, boom, it's gone. I had a couple years of that, and then 7 or 8 years of nothing. And it just, and then it flies by. And the really, really cool thing for me to see here is to hear CJ and Will talk about how they heard that message. And not, and by the way, those are my words. Like those guys talked about, they might not have talked about that at all, but in terms of just capturing the moment, seizing the day, all that kind of stuff. The really cool thing was DeMeco talking about how the rookies are all wide-eyed and taking that stuff in. And like those guys being able to listen to that and hear it and just be gung-ho about it, it's really cool. You know what it's like when you talk to kids. You talk to kids and you don't know for sure whether they're listening or not. If they hate you or if you're changing their lives, you just never know. So it's really cool when guys just flat out talk about what a big deal it was. The other thing too, in terms of rookies just being totally invested in it, this is DeMeco talking about Will getting those 2 sacks while playing through a sprained ankle.
Really proud of Will for him pushing through, right? He's in a lot of pain. He's hurt, but he still, sucked it up and pushed through. And he made a lot of impact plays. Even though he was on a limited snap count, he was still able to affect the quarterback. For him to get 2 sacks, huge plays for us in the game.
And I know a lot of you have heard me tell this story before, but this was a really impactful one. A veteran told me when I was a rookie that the key in the NFL, if you want to be really good, isn't to play injured. It's to play well when you're injured and to not let your play drop off. And that's the real gut check. You can go out and hobble around and make excuses for yourself, or you can go out and say, no, I'm going to be the exact same guy I've ever been. And Will goes out there and, you could see him limping. He got 12 snaps, 2 sacks, multiple quarterback pressures, and he just showed up. And he did it in a way where he showed like clear and definitive improvement over some of the things that he had to work on from the first half of the season. That part was really cool because fighting through chip blocks, really anticipating chip blocks from the running back, and also anticipating the little assists from the tight ends on their way out into routes. Those are 2 things that he struggled with early in the season. And now he anticipates it. He knows exactly how to avoid it. And where it's nice to cite these ESPN double team stats and everything, but Will himself afterwards said like those things don't mean anything. He's got to produce, and he's going out and producing multiple sacks in multiple games now. It's really cool to see. It's just really cool to see all that work rewarded. Listen to this whole bite here. When he was asked, I think by Sarge about his saying pressure is privilege, and was asked to explain that a little bit. This is really interesting.
I played with in college of just a lot of pressure, like a lot of like it's on you, CJ. Like you got to go make a play. You got to lead us to victory. And I used to honestly, I used to ask why, why it's always on me? Like why can't I just get something easy? And then around high school was the time I was like, man, God put something special in my heart, special type of talent into me. That's the main thing that I think God put me through a lot of adversity for was that reason. Is like smile through all the pain, smile through all the adversity, smile through the great times. In this line of work, you can't always kick yourself in the dirt. I'm the first to hold myself accountable for my mistakes, but at times I have to honestly remind myself smile, my life isn't as bad as I probably make it seem to myself, and I think something that we all can do as humans.
That's some deep stuff there if you really break it down. He's saying you can't always kick yourself in the dirt, which means he kicks himself in the dirt a lot. I think he's really hard on himself. And the part at the end, which was kind of jarring to me when he said, my life's not as bad as I make it feel to myself, or however he phrased it. I think CJ's hard on himself. And that's tough. I'm not trying to psychoanalyze him or anything, but before we got so brainwashed and so infiltrated with obsessive positivity all the time and everything, that's a hallmark of guys like Michael Jordan, Larry Bird. Some of the great guys of the past were also very, very driven in almost a dark way. And I think there's still a place for that. And I think that's where I get really intrigued by whatever the people who wanted to make a negative out of CJ's personality. I look at it now, I don't trust those scouts or anonymous execs. if they just actually felt that, okay, CJ being a guy who's super serious and very he has an edge. Nick has said he has an edge, I think it's almost a reflection of those people who would criticize that, of like an insecurity that you don't want to be examined yourself. Because I think CJ is just gonna I don't think he accepts anything less than a standard that's probably way too high, or unattainable in himself, and that can lead to a lot of pain, but it also leads to a lot of greatness. Like, I think there's some times where people have read too many damn self-help books and watched too many TED Talks to where they think there's this carbon copy picture. I'll tell you the other thing they've done. You know what they've done? They've read too many autobiographies by billionaires who would present themselves as something that they totally are not. Dave Tepper's probably got a book out there about how he loves and treats all people with kindness and happiness all the time. Drink Dowson, son of a bitch. I don't want to end on the down note before we get to the new press conference. This is CJ talking about the energy in the building and just how things have changed a little bit from perhaps the first part of the season.
And you can see just like the vibe. Like today, I think we probably, I don't know how many fans we had, but it felt like that was the most we probably put in the stadium probably in a long time. And to show up today, I think that was pretty cool. We're going to just keep this going. And the time is now. Like, it's not next year. It's not the year after that. It's right now. We have the opportunity to control our own destiny. So I'm excited to do that.
I honestly wasn't paying attention at kickoff. About second quarter or so, I looked out and I thought it looked pretty good. Like, I thought there were plenty of people in the stands and I thought it was loud when it needed to be loud. But I saw a lot of people commenting that it was a better crowd. And I wonder if it was just an earlier crowd. Because that's the part. I mean, that's the part where everybody takes the damn pictures and acts like that's what it's going to be like the whole game. But there's a palpable change, and I think regardless of what happens over the next couple of weeks, I think people have seen DeMeco, CJ, Will Anderson, and they get it. Like I said before, I've been cynical since 1997, since I got into the NFL, about too many speeches about leadership and culture. Most of the time, it just all evaporates into the mist and no culture is really established. And I've been about, like I played for Tom Coughlin. He said a hell of a culture. It was hell at times, but it was a hell of a culture. It wasn't enjoyable like the DeMeco culture. If I had to choose, I would take the enjoyable one. But he set a culture, and then there are a lot of other people that talk about setting cultures, and they're just not consistent enough with it to do it. I think what we've seen out of these top three guys, DeMeco, CJ, and Will, is that they are so truly and plainly their genuine selves that it's easy to be consistent when you're like that. And I think with DeMeco, that's how he was as a player. Like, okay, we got a hardship, we got a setback. All right, let's, figure out a way to attack it, and we just keep going. Almost matter of factly. Like, I've never seen somebody able to attack something in both a matter of fact fashion, well, simultaneously like vicious and violent at times as a player, but like just steadfastly be moving forward. That's why DeMeco in all the ways that he and Will Anderson are alike, I think that Terminator nickname is kind of it's appropriate because they just kind of like, no matter what's going on around them, they just keep moving forward. They do it for good instead of evil.